Sounding wrong?
Hello, welcome everyone to Arthur's Celebration of Life. Today is February 27th, 2026. Who thought we'd be here in 2026, but we are here. Aslan, I don't know if you have anything introductory you wanted to say, but it's being recorded now.
Okay, well, I just want to welcome everyone who might be here to celebrate with us Arthur Firstenberg's life and his work and his books and all of the amazing things that he did. And I know there's some friends here with us at the Friends House in Santa Fe who have stories and a couple of things to share. And I just want to say welcome to everyone in this really interesting time here on planet Earth, and congratulations to everyone here for living through the electro pollution that's here so far. We made it here.
All right.
So I did prepare a small hopefully it's a comedy, some lightheartedness. So I'm happy to share that whenever you all are ready. And Roman, I would love for you to introduce yourself too and share about your experience with Arthur. I think you're managing his Substack right now.
Yes, yes, and I'm honored to be here because I don't have as much experience and personal knowledge as you all do. Most of you do with Arthur. Relatively new here. Only really got in touch with him back in 2018 when I figured out that this was all a problem and I started having headaches myself. So it was a selfish reason that I first reached out to Arthur because I couldn't figure anything out. But yeah, Arthur has taught me a lot. And yeah, currently managing his social media, what he has left of it. I don't know if many of you know, but the Cellular Phone Task Force and the 5G Space Appeal, those websites are not functional. So we're trying to preserve his work as much as possible. And he's inspired me, like a lot of you, to pursue this field of research. So yeah, thank you all for being here. And like I said, I'm honored to be here with you all.
You got no sound.
Thank you for mentioning those websites. I just want to say we do want to get those websites back up. And so there is a small group of us that are going to work to get those back up. And right now we did build a new website that you all can find at nmutilitysafety.org. And you can also donate there to help us get the other websites back up online.
Roman, are you guys able to hear the speaker?
Yes.
Okay.
He could be a little louder. Yeah, we need volume up in this room, I think.
I can hear you, Aslan. Maybe yeah, I can hear you okay. I don't know about everybody else. You could be a little louder, but I can make out your words.
Can you turn this volume up a little bit? Oh, there it sounds like. Can you hear that better?
Yeah, it's a little better, maybe a little louder.
Okay. Is that good?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, well, I have a comedy thing. It's called 20 Signs You're a Friend of Arthur Firstenberg. Okay, so number one, you see cell towers as the edges of a frying pan and you're inside of it. Two, you genuinely wonder if Wi-Fi has become humanity's shadowy overlord. You casually scan every new place for smart meters like it's a safety ritual. Before entering a building, you wave an electrometer like it's a magic wand protecting you from invisible dragons. Cell phones are not devices. They're tiny Trojan horses smuggled into daily life to zap your vitality and quietly erode your freedom. You fight regularly with your printer because it insists on having its own Wi-Fi network. And here's sign 7. You regard Alexa or Siri with suspicion as if they're spies in the living room. You're more likely to believe in unicorns than safe wireless technology. You have a landline phone and you're proud of it. Your friends know not to text you ever. Email if they must. Number 11, your idea of friendship involves asking someone to quickly handle something on the internet for you. You consider going off grid a normal weekend activity, not an eccentric lifestyle choice. Your social events usually involve phrases like device-free zone and please turn off your phones, which we forgot to say at the beginning. You've explained the dangers of Bluetooth so often, your friends now introduce you as the anti-wireless willy-nilly. 15, you nod knowingly whenever someone mentions electrosensitivity as if they're talking about your daily life. 16, you think EMF shielding fabric makes for thoughtful birthday gifts. 17, you have at least one Faraday cage accessory in your wardrobe. 18, your emergency preparedness kit includes more EMF gear than food or water. 19, your favorite bedtime reading involves the latest studies on wireless radiation exposure. 20, your friends love you dearly, but secretly nickname you Faraday. Okay, well, that was 20 signs that we're friends of Arthur Firstenberg. And I would love to invite Jan Boyer to come up and share with us. And Jan is a longtime Santa Fe amazing woman that I've known for forever, as well as Arthur did too.
Good to see you. Thank you, Sophie. Thank you. Please let me know if you can hear me. Is this okay? Can you hear me?
No.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Well, I'm wearing sunglasses because I'm recovering from cataract surgery, so that's why I'm doing this. I'm happy to speak about Arthur because he joined in. I was working on the forest and protecting the forest when I met Arthur. Am I coming in and out? Is that what's happening here? Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay.
We can hear you.
And when Arthur first came to the Once a Forest meetings, gee, we had so much fun. Phoebe Hummel used to come all the time and a few other people, and Arthur and Phoebe had a great friendship. It was very sweet and deep, and they would both just smile at each other and chuckle and tell little jokes and communicate outside of the rest of us. And it was just really fun that they both enjoyed that so much. Arthur was a great help when I began working on the forest issues because his memory was so good. And I remember that there were several times when I was trying to figure some piece out about a detail about the law or about the Forest Service. And I would call Arthur and I would say, Arthur, do you remember that one weird exception to this detail that we read about a while back? And he'd say, oh yeah, that was by so-and-so, and it was printed in this magazine, and it was probably on about page such and such. And I mean, it was so fun to have that kind of a backup person to help and just come through with the details that he would remember so well. So that was always very impressive and fun. And then he became more and more dedicated to this work, the cellular task force work. And we weren't as much in touch as we had been. But it was so wonderful. When he first found out about the Forest Service and what they were doing and the details, he wrote a great piece called The Forest Industrial Complex. And he just summed up so much of the power dynamics that were going on in that couple of pages. So it was very beautiful when he did these things with the forest as well as the other interests he had. Then I also just wanted to say that it was such an honor and such a fun thing for me because every once in a while Arthur would need something like, can I use your computer for such and such? And I remember one time he needed to do an interview with somebody in Moscow. Well, you know, Arthur may not have laughed all the time, but he came over to do this interview with somebody from Moscow. And I was joking with him and I said, Arthur, Moscow, really? And he goes, excuse me, and we had such a good laugh about it. So, you know, it was really fun that his voice went so far. And I've met people, I even know somebody in Amsterdam, and I mentioned one of his books one day, and she said, oh yeah, I've got that book. And just to know that his incredible love of everything from the forest to our own health is so big that even my friend in Amsterdam knew all about him, made me happy. So I just feel like the energy of Arthur is so strong. I'm kind of moved about it right now in this moment. I mean, just so much beauty with the love that he had for life and for us all. So then that's the third and last point I'll make, is just that everybody loved Arthur and Arthur loved everybody. And he could be such a rascal. And we all know that. But there was so much sweet love always with Arthur that I just want to highlight that again today. And as I see your familiar faces again, you know exactly what I mean. Just the strength and the depth of the love that Arthur had for all of us, as well as for the forest and animals and everything else, was profound and beautiful and really touched us all and helped so much to help us with the earth. So thank you.
Aslan,
See the
if you,
speaker? So we can't see the speaker at all. I know this is being recorded, so
can't.
a few of us have wanted to say something, and I hope this will be edited out, but we really truly want to see the speakers. Thank you kindly.
Is the speaker not visible? Can you see, you can't see me?
No, that the camera's not facing
I
the
can
speaker.
see, the camera needs to be tweaked.
So I hope I'll be edited out because but I feel this it would be a shame not to see everyone who's speaking today.
Just move the camera a little bit, Aslan.
Thank you kindly. The other way, yeah, perfect. Or a little bit centered would be nice. A little bit more to the right, if possible. We can see the speak. Yeah, that's good. Great, thank you.
Okay, sorry about that.
That's all right.
I wanted to definitely again thank people for coming, and Aslan who did. Oh, did that miss my sound? You can hear me. Aslan for doing so much to get this thing going. But Connie wanted to say some words to kind of kick us off here, I think. And so let's have Connie up.
Hello, my name is Connie. And I am grateful for having been a close friend of Arthur's for over a decade. I have been an educator serving grades K through 12 for over 30 years. I still work for the schools, and this is why I am deeply interested in Arthur's work. I believe the high wireless bills that are now in the schools are affecting little bodies. And I want to see public interest become more informed of the dangers of electromagnetic radiation and how it affects children in schools, where there is now more than ever a heavy reliance on wireless technologies. I came to know Arthur as a result of my environmental doctor's description of his work with EMF, and I did not know it at the time, but knowing Arthur would forever change my life. The day I got in contact with him, he said he would come to my house and use his meters to test the EMF and the RF. I had no idea at that time that all the electric cords and electric wiring in the walls were emitting a field. I was not aware of the fields of my laptops printers, router, lamps, and infrared sauna that contains 6 electric heaters. That day, I changed the configuration of everything in my small office. I also changed the way that I use my computer. Arthur showed me how I can use a keyboard and a mouse with extensions so that the computer is a far distance and I am not affected by the field that it is emitting. The most helpful change was to remove the router from underneath my computer desk and place it in another room with a long internet cable. Pertinent to this was the change I experienced in the inflammation of my lower body. I was told by medical doctors, not my primary care doctor, that I had a UTI and antibiotics were recommended. Once I removed the router from close proximity to my legs, the inflammation went away forever. This may have been a coincidence, but I believe the radiation field from the router was seriously damaging my legs and causing the inflammation. I never took the antibiotics. I spent a lot of time with Arthur. We shared many, many happy moments together. I remember one day taking my 10-speed bike to his house. Arthur's only transportation all the time that I knew him was his bike. He and I biked to a place Arthur wanted to take me. He filled a large plastic bag with vegetables, and we rode to what could be called a prairie dog encampment. There it was by the side of a large city thoroughfare with lots of cars rushing by. There were dozens of them, peeping out of their holes, some of them on their hind legs, as if to welcome Arthur. We worked for an hour or so, spreading the vegetables all over the ground. When, at last, we were finished and back at Arthur's home, Arthur said to me, "Oh, let's form a prairie dog rescue team. And I will be the president." I frequently provided transportation for Arthur in my old 2001 Subaru. With his meters, he had tested the dashboard, and as the fields were strong, he found it better to sit in the back seat while I drove. I could avoid the field on the driver's side by pushing my seat back. I later purchased a digital tri-field meter and learned to measure fields. I have now used my meter for many years. It has been an indispensable tool in alerting me to fields in my work environment. I can now feel a field, and I know of its existence without the use of the meter. There was a short period of time, perhaps several weeks, that I drove Arthur back and forth from El Dorado. In El Dorado was an old computer with low emissions that he felt he was able to use for his work. At that time, he was working on contacting established coalitions formed from groups poised to save wildlife and solve other world issues. He was hoping to establish global radiation as one of the threats that was as important as the concerns for climate change. Much later in his 2024 email, he mentions a coalition formed of individual organizations and scientists on 6 continents. Whose mission is to save planet Earth. The target of this coalition, he says, must be to place wire technology alongside climate change on the world's agenda of greatest assaults on life and most immediate threats to survival. I might mention that at that time, Arthur was not well known, and he had not built his mailing list that was later to become 300,000. A really beautiful side of Arthur was his musicianship. He played classic piano and had an old guitar, which he would strum. He would then loudly and happily sing, You can make it if you try. You can make it if you try. He would sing this after the P&M case regarding smart meters had made a leap forward. At such times, he was deliriously happy. Another really beautiful part of Arthur was his delicate sensitivity and Feldenkrais method bodywork. One day I appeared at his home in an alarmed state. He took out his old massage table and gave me a treatment. I have been a licensed massage therapist for 25 years. I recognized Arthur's talent as a therapist in this very quiet work of releasing trauma from tissues in the body. At the close of the session, he was very relaxed. He said, "This is really the kind of work that my heart is in. I do not really like being an activist." Another real revealing thing about Arthur was his ability to endure physical pain. I remember the time that he fell off his bike and broke his humerus bone. He called me to be with him, and he liked to hear my own experience having a spiral fracture in my humerus bone and placing a stainless rod inside the bone. I had not wanted the surgery. I later had the rod removed in a second surgery. I had used homeopathics to deal with the pain and swimming to regain range of motion. Arthur listened intently. He went through a surgery to place a titanium rod in his arm. After his surgery, I came to be with him. He did not take any of the pain medication. He would not even take homeopathics. He suffered while grasping and squeezing my hand when the pain was unbearable. The last time I was with him, he was very ill. His arms and legs were paralyzed and he had severe loss of range of motion. I took a leave of absence from my substitute teacher job at Santa Fe Public Schools to be with him. It was a very difficult time. He was deathly ill. His greatest concerns at that time were for his legal work, to stop the smart meters, and for his cat Zori. Nearly every day I would drive him in his old car, which he had at that time purchased, to FedEx, where he would get on the computer for an hour or more. He knew his work being exposed daily to EMF was killing him. He would say, "Maybe I'll not get on the computer today." Also during this time, he would say in jest, with a heavy note of sarcasm, "Maybe I'll die tonight." Times were becoming darker. At the end of my time with Arthur, there was a team of people taking care of him. He fell down and severely injured his head the last weeks or so of his life. He spoke euphorically of a peaceful place in his dreams where there were trees and flowers and a pond with croaking frogs. He wanted to be alone and would order everyone to leave him alone. He was dying. During this last phase, Arthur was very difficult to get along with. He would dismiss me in anger. And I would say, "Fine. I'm leaving because I don't argue with ill people." I had returned to my sub-teaching, and a few weeks after leaving him, I got a call from Caroline to ask if I could come to be with him. She didn't say he was going to die, but shortly after the call, I was notified that he had died. So today, I'm here to celebrate Arthur Firstenberg's life. I understand now what it is to have met a genius. A genius is one who is extreme in their thinking, who cannot conform to the normal standards of human behavior, as exemplified in his relations with others. He stood firmly to his ground, not allowing any distraction whatsoever. This is the way of great minds that change the world and bring forth the new. thank everyone here for your presence. The greatest thing that can happen as a result of our being here is to advance Arthur's initiatives in addressing the world's global radiation emergency and all of the attending issues that are part of this, i.e. stopping smart meters and the infrastructure that supports the reckless proliferation of cell towers that has no concern for wildlife and public input or health concerns. I am taking names of people who are interested in forming a support group for electric sensitive people and people without cell phones. Please add your name and phone number if you're interested in being part of this group. It is my hope that this group will give us a place to meet and help each other to maneuver through the conditions that are hurting us because of wireless technologies. So I just placed a form, I guess I would call it, and it's on the table in the back, and it's called People Without Cell Phones. And if you're interested at all, please write your name and your number and I will get in contact with you. Thank you.
If anyone from online would like to join that group, just put your name and your email into the chat and we'll collect it for that form. So would Ollie like to speak next, and we'll go and put you up on the stage if you're ready to speak. We welcome.
Yes, I am ready. Am I up on stage now?
Go for it.
I think someone said go ahead, so I will do that. Hello, everyone. This is Olle Johansson. I'm calling from Stockholm, Sweden, and it's 9:30 p.m., so it's a bit late here. 1 year ago, actually 1 year and 3 days, I was so saddened to hear of our mutual loss. Arthur Firstenberg was and is one of the true heroes of our field and of our time. Arthur meant so much to me, both as a friend as well as a genius colleague, often pretty harsh and hard in scientific discussions, but always fair and also always supporting me and my contributions. He was a true co-worker in a number of different areas, and his engagement for life on this planet, especially the honeybees, other pollinators, as well as other species, paralleled mine. I know that the other 8.7 million species on Earth are listening tonight, and they are also shedding tears in their hearts and in similar organs. He also was one of the very few who took me up on the notion that a campaigner or activist, to keep his or her credibility, must refrain from using what he or she is campaigning against. So, to the best of my knowledge, he didn't use any cell phones or wireless gadgets at all. My thoughts tonight here in a rather icy, wet, dark, and cold Stockholm are with him and his near and far relatives, friends, colleagues, and many more. I definitely will be keeping Arthur in my thoughts and prayers for the remaining of my life. He himself remains one of the strongest beacons of light in a dark world. I will never forget Arthur's kindness and warmth. So I say thank you so much, dear Arthur, and thank you so much, all of you, for allowing me in this evening. Since it is late over here and I have a very early Saturday start, I will leave you soon, but it's very, very interesting and rewarding to listen to all of the previous speakers. Thank you so much.
Kathleen, do you want to talk now?
So my name is Kathleen Hurlich, and I'm the attorney who helped Arthur in 2018 and 2019 to file a complaint with the U.S. District Court regarding the cell towers here in New Mexico and Santa Fe. So unbeknownst to me that I would eventually get to know this man, the actual first time I met Arthur was in 2006 approximately, when I moved to Santa Fe. I had a friend staying over. She was electromagnetically sensitive, and he came into my home. And I knew nothing about EMF and started metering my home and telling me that I needed to turn off Wi-Fi and I was killing my friend and all of this stuff. So I was a bit bewildered. At that time, he was sleeping in his car somewhere to get away from EMF. And I thought to myself, who is this unusual character, not knowing that I would actually get to know him quite well. So the other way that I got to meet Arthur was when we would go to the PRC meetings and he would have members of the public here in Santa Fe come and testify for the very few minutes that the PRC allows people to speak about the dangers and about how all of us feel about our health, even though, of course, the PRC was telling us we couldn't speak about health. By 2018, Arthur needed an attorney to file a court case in the U.S. District Court, and I ended up being the attorney assisting him. And I spent many, many, many hours and days laughing and working with Arthur. The first thing we did in 2018 was to file a complaint, and I had told him that I would do it only if we could amend it. He had a timing issue, and I also agreed with him that time was of the essence. So in 2019, in 2018, as we were revising and working on all of these documents, the joy of it was, I thought to myself, like, here I am, this lawyer, driving to this man's home who has no computer access at the home, walking in the snow and ice, about ready to slip in the dark. I must be out of my mind as a lawyer. What am I doing here, you know? But I was so committed along with him because this marvelous man had such an ability to explain the absolute dire danger that was happening to people on this planet, to plants, animals. And I was very privileged to be able to be a part of all of this. The other interesting thing is that as we worked on those documents, we would find ways for me to go and print them. And I said to him, you know, I actually like editing on paper. I really don't like working on the computer to edit my legal documents. It's much, much preferable. So we found our working relationship to be, you know, much easier because we both liked it. So we would sit there in his home, in his kitchen, and we would rewrite the documents and laugh and talk about them. And one of the things that I was fortunate is I got to know Arthur even more as a person. He was the son of a rabbi, a Polish rabbi. And while he said he hadn't grown up in a particularly Jewish home, he didn't feel like they had followed all of the traditions. He said he wished he knew more. I always felt he had the soul of his father because he was a very, very spiritual man. His mom lived to be a very, very old age, and she was from Ukraine. So Arthur and I would sit there and laugh so hard as we were working on these documents about different things that we would do that I would literally like choke. I couldn't breathe. I just had tears running down my face. And you know, we just had a wonderful time in the middle of this, you know, commitment of work that we both felt very strongly about. And of course, Arthur would be the one to explain all the science to me, and then, you know, I'd argue with him about the law. As Arthur got ill with his, I don't know, his shoulder or his arm, I'm actually a nurse. I went with him for that first appointment, and, you know, that was a very, very difficult on him. It kind of was the beginning of the downfall of his own personal health. But he persevered and did as much as he could. And at the end of the day, I think of Arthur Firstenberg, dear friend, as such a spiritual man and a man with such amazing intelligence, a true gift, an ability to see the world using a miraculous mind. And I don't think he'll ever be forgotten. I'm praying that the ripples of his work will be continuing. And he was so honest and dedicated. And I miss you, dear friend.
I guess, Shauna, you want to go now?
Sure. Hi, my name is Oshana, and I've known Arthur for I don't know how many decades, possibly since he first came to Santa Fe, and I'm not exactly sure when that is. But we had a lot of encounters with PRC and city council. And also, strangely, I'm one of the people that was almost killed by EMF, and Arthur saved my life. If it had not been for Arthur and me having known him and been on his list, so that when he was having a book signing for the Invisible Rainbow, and I got the invitation, even though I had been actually deathly ill for many months, starting as I looked at when the modem was replaced for my computer. It was December 3rd, 2016. And by August, when the book signing was August of 2017, I was near death in that my hair had turned white, most of it fallen out, all the drains in the showers were clogged, and I didn't know it because I was too sick. Nothing functioned in my body. I'm still trying to repair and regain eyesight and hearing. And luckily, my body, even though it was so decrepit at that point and senile, in fact, every day, at the end of the day, I would say, I'm in so much pain. Tomorrow I've got to kill myself. But being senile, that's the good thing about senility. You forget the next day that you wanted to kill yourself until the evening arrives again and you're just too exhausted. So I'm still here, thanks to Arthur. And so I went to the book signing, and Arthur was listing bit by bit all the things that go wrong when you are EMF sensitive and totally inundated with it. And I had all those symptoms, and many of you will know Michael Blanchard. And he was sitting beside me, and I said, Michael, I have all those symptoms. And he said, well, you must have Wi-Fi in your house. I said, no, I would never have Wi-Fi in my house. I've been wired. He said, well, it'll take me 5 minutes to come and check, and I'll be happy to do that. And I said, yes, just in case. He came and checked. And yes, I had Wi-Fi, and I looked it up when they replaced the router, and as I mentioned, December 3rd. So it was like 9 months to be born and 9 months to be killed by Wi-Fi. And it was truly horrible. And of course, the sicker I got, the less I could do with things, and I would sit in front of the computer. Anyway, just recently, in fact, I think it was yesterday, I received these emails from Dr. Sam Bailey and her husband, Dr. Mark Bailey, and they are in New Zealand. And it was so serendipitous that I think it was yesterday or the day before, and they were talking about the honeybees in New Zealand and how the government is saying that there's a virus infecting the honeybees, and that the virus, it seemed to have America, something like that in its name, implicating that the virus came from the Americas, and that the government there is going around and testing. And you know how the government tests for things, they typically will find what they want to find, and they're destroying all the beehives in New Zealand. And I thought of Arthur, and then lo and behold, near the end of the program, it was like 25 minutes or something, was Samantha Bailey, Dr. Samantha Bailey, who's so beautiful, doing this review of what's happening in New Zealand. And
she had Arthur's book there. She had a picture of Arthur's book and mentioned his name and said how wonderful it was and was promoting it. And she has a huge following. She and her husband are both MDs and they both stood up against COVID. In fact, they feel that there is no virus. And from my point of view, COVID was just EMF directed. And it is a military grade weapon. And I remember hearing about 5G being used for crowd control. And of course, during COVID, they surreptitiously set up 5G installations all over Santa Fe. Now that could be used for 15-minute cities, but it's also possible that at some point, because we are in a depopulation program, in case no one has noticed, I'm sure you all have, that this could be used. And I remember when Arthur and I, one of the times we went to, Mayor Weber was still, he was mayor at that time, I think his first term. And we were there trying to stop the 4G proliferation and knowing that so many people in those areas with lots of towers were getting a lot of cancer. And we were telling the whole council that this was happening in their city, and Mayor Weber said specifically, he said the FCC wants this, they want these cell phone towers, and we as a city do not have enough money to pay the fines if we don't allow it. So, I mean, what kind of control do we have in this world? We're the ones that are supposed to vote for things, but that's just an illusion, as far as I can tell. And just, I think if Arthur were here, and I don't know if he actually researched what happened in the last reset, which was 1850s to 1880s, and then they reprogrammed everybody that was left because they seemingly seemed to kill most people. But that seemed to be an EMF wipeout of the population at that time. So anyway, just today, someone told me that there is, she talked to the meter man and he told her up on Upper Canyon, he was walking down her road and he said, and I didn't know this, and Bill might, he will know this, that in our legislature, I guess recently, that it's passed now that they're going to have smart meters. And this meter reader man said that within the next 2 years, they're just going to be everywhere. So I hope that isn't true. And if it is, that's going to be a next project, right? And Arthur would be very proud of that we keep protesting. No meters. And thank you all that. I'm sorry if that was.
Is Ian McBride, if you're still on, we could unmute him, but I think he's left the meeting.
Left.
That was, Ian is the current lawyer for NMUS who is currently pursuing our appeal to stop the smart meters from coming to New Mexico, at least northern New Mexico, at least PNM territory. I think Tanya Rebel is on the line there, and I don't know which phone number is yours, Tanya, but can you try to unmute yourself and if you're available to speak?
Hello, can you all hear me?
Is that Tanya? All right.
Yes, we can.
Yeah, I'm calling from afar, all the way from the United Kingdom. It's so wonderful to hear you all and to hear about Arthur. And it's really touching. And I was touched by Arthur as well. He was such a special person. I never met him in life, so to speak. I mean, in the flesh, but we were in contact for quite a while. And he inspired, as he's inspired all here, I understand. He inspired me to take action. And also personally, I used to have many years ago a small, not a smartphone, but a small wireless phone. But he was adamant we shouldn't use any just like Olle Johansson just earlier said, we should walk our talk, and I relinquished it. And he's so right. He was right in what he said about we need to not use any of it, of course. And so that's on the personal level. On the collective level, I started together with a lovely lady in Croatia. At the time, it was called Global Protest. We now call it International Action. Global Protest to stop 5G. And nowadays I say International Action to stop electrosmog, because of course it's all of it. And I also joined Global Radiation Emergency, and we were in touch on that front. And Arthur didn't particularly like the protest bit, but I believe the action that we covered many of the subjects, because we hold it every 3 months, the worldwide grassroots inspired action. And many of the subjects or topics that we chose, because there's a different theme every 3 months, were also coming from what Arthur, his brilliant newsletters. I mean, they were just so informative, and I missed them very much because they give such clarity. And he wrote about the satellites, of course, how the LEO, the low Earth orbit satellites in particular, how they affect us. So we've had several, generally at Christmas or just before Christmas, because we hold our action at solstice or equinox time around and about, because it's easy to remember. And that we've done on satellites several times. We know how hard that one is, but people need to wake up. As we say, look up from their little smart mirrors up in the sky and see what's happening above us. But this coming March, in the equinox again, around the 21st and 22nd, we usually do it over 2 days. We're going to focus on the bees. And I'm pretty sure that Arthur would be pleased with that. I know he cared about the world and the planet at large. And Olle Johansson, who spoke earlier, he's of course very concerned about what's happening to the bees. He's gone to Ghana to do studies there several times. I think he's been there to do studies on the effect on the bees by EMFs. And I think that's what we're going to focus on. I'm going to be calling it this time Stop 5G for the Bees, just because it sounds good. But it's, of course, not just 5G. It's all of it. And I've been thinking for a long time about how not just 5G, but everything that's been happening ever since COVID, really, everything accelerated then. The Internet of Things, the Internet of Bodies, more and more. It's gone crazier and crazier, isn't it? Eventually, it's the Internet of the Mind. They talk about a hive mind and the cloud and all this. It sounds like science fiction, but it's really happening. And I feel, or I don't just feel, I've realized that it's all really about AI. It's about giving AI full control, not just about our ways of life, but our thinking even. And that's why it's so important to realize now that AI, as we know, is not just the horrible environmental threat, water and energy usurper, but also an existential threat. And 5G and the Internet of Things, etc., is just a vehicle. And wireless, of course, is the tentacle. So people, even when people don't understand the environmental impact or the health impact of wireless, I keep saying to them, look, it's AI needs wireless like humans need water. It's that essential for AI to get full control. Now, if you want to stop this horror, because who wants a world with artificial intelligence? We need humane, real intelligence, or wisdom, dare I say it. So if we want to stop that, stop using wireless. I mean, that's another argument, because sometimes the way in is more, people are more concerned about surveillance, it seems, or some people anyway, than their own health or the environment, which is sad, but true. But the bees, however, going back to them, I think that's quite also a way in. Many people can relate to the bees, and we know they're very important for food production, if not else. So I'm hoping that many people will join. And I've sent to Bill Bruno, I've sent the information, so hopefully that can be shared how to do it, because I don't want to speak too long. But normally we ask people to send in an action, a message, in this case about the bees, of course, save our bees from 5G or from electrosmog, whatever. It doesn't have to be long. It can be a picture taken with a real camera, not a smartphone, sent in, and it can just be sent to me via my email even, because I don't like Facebook, I don't like social media, but we have a group on there which has huge amount of members, more than 21,000, but typically I've been banned from Facebook for cybersecurity reasons or something like that, nonsensical. They are censoring more and more. So I'll see if I can get on again, but the group is still there. It's called International Action to Stop 5G. And this coming month, March, we're calling it Save Our Bees from 5G. But I have sent that information. And of course, SafeTech International is also part of this. And they're they're a brilliant organization. And they are also, you can send pictures into them or your message. And we collate them, and then we make a press release, and we send it out to the media. And I ask everybody to send it to this media and share it, because the whole point of this exercise, you could wonder, why should we just make a picture or send a message? Well, it's to break the media wall. We really need to get the media, the mainstream media. We know they're bought, of course, but we need to get through there. And sometimes we manage, locally particularly, sometimes we manage national or internationally even, especially before COVID. Sadly, after that's been harder. But even so, we're fighting to get things out into the mainstream, because it's all about awareness. And I think Arthur particularly worked very hard to create awareness. And I thank him every day for that. And I hope that he's looking over us and proud of what you're doing to continue his work, and that we can do him justice and honor. So thank you for listening. Sorry that if this was very long, but it's been lovely to connect to you.
Thank you so much. And thank you to everyone who's here to celebrate Arthur's work and his life. And I would love to invite Erica Elliott to come up and share what she has to share. And we're really blessed to have Erica here. She's a doctor in Santa Fe. Thank you.
Short, because everyone spoke so eloquently about Arthur. I first met Arthur in the mid-90s. He came to me as a patient, and I didn't know much about electromagnetic sensitivity then. And when he came in, he went around my house and unplugged all my equipment. And so, why are you doing that? And he said, I'm very sensitive. And you need to put your phone, turn it off and put it outside. Okay, and so I'm pretty open-minded, so I wanted to know more about this, and he educated me. And the more I got educated, the more patients that came to me with electromagnetic sensitivity problems. And I was able to help them thanks to what Arthur taught me. And so in a sense, he was really the doctor. I was the patient, so to speak. And there were so many people who had electrosensitivity. Some were so sensitive that they ended up having to live in a tent out in the middle of nowhere until they started to get better. So one time, this was about 20 years ago, I suddenly could not sleep. It just, from one day to the next, I couldn't even sleep 5 minutes. And I tried going downstairs to my office where I see patients, and I laid on the floor in my sleeping bag and I could sleep. So I thought, they must have installed some kind of cell tower or something. And I called Arthur, and he came to my home with all his meters. And downstairs, he didn't see much. And then he came upstairs, and the needle started going like this. And he went to my bedroom, and it went boing, 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 boing. And he looked around, and there was nothing electrical in my bedroom. He stepped out on the balcony and it went boing. And he looked over at the neighbor's house, whose house was connected to mine, and he saw that the neighbor had installed an antenna. And so that's why I couldn't sleep. So fortunately, the neighbor was friendly. And he agreed to turn off the antenna at night so I could sleep. And every time he forgot, I knew because I couldn't sleep. It was horrible living that way, always wondering when he's going to forget to turn off his antenna. And finally, he got so popular. He was a musician who made music for movies. He got so popular, he needed to move away and find a big studio. And that was such a relief to me, so I could actually get some sleep. Anyway, Arthur is probably the most brilliant person that I've ever met. And he taught me a lot. And I passed it always on to my patients. So Arthur, thank you. Thank you for all that you've done. May you rest in peace. And you're free at last. No more suffering. Thank you.
Roman, do you want to speak now?
You ask from up there.
Roman, are you still there? Do you want to speak?
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to say a few words. Arthur, I didn't know him too long as some of you, like I said, but he taught me two things. Well, one, he inspired artistry in my writing, and he had a way of really describing the problem that wasn't just scientific. You can tell there was soul behind his words, and that I think a lot of you felt that, and that's carried through as an inspiration to me and my writing and research into this topic. So thank you, Arthur, wherever you are right now, for that. And the other thing that Arthur really taught me, like Ole said, was to live by example. He also inspired me to get rid of my cell phone years back. I wasn't really using it that often, but it was one of those things. Oh, what if I needed an emergency? Blah, blah, blah. And yeah, I just got rid of it. And now my life has improved because of it. Full disclosure, my wife has a cell phone and, we hardwire it and share it if we need to use it, but I found ways around it. But Arthur really pushed the envelope in many ways in life. And I just want to thank him for that. And I encourage everybody to push yourself and challenge yourself, just like Arthur did. So thank you so much.
Is Kathy still on the Zoom wanting to speak?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you. Yes, I want to say that I got some notes. I called Arthur a couple months before he passed and mentioned that astonishing fact he wrote about in The Invisible Rainbow, that over 50% of insects had been attritioned or disappeared after Marconi had installed the first radio emitting tower on the Isle of Wight near England, and that's spelled Wight. He corrected me in saying, I think it was more like 70+% of the insects had disappeared. Another thing, Dr. Martin Paul from Portland, Oregon, Phi Beta Kappa graduate, uniquely trained in basic med sciences, physics, and genetics, and Barry Trower from England, spoke at the Unitarian Church in Portland about 14 years ago. I will never forget what Trower, who was trained in the British military in the late 50s regarding microwave weapons, when he declared that Wi-Fi is a weaponized form of radio frequency. Now, there's some vital issues that we need to still remember to research is children in the under the Wi-Fi routers in schools. A 10-year-old girl in my neighborhood was pulled out of her grade school, and she went to 7 doctors and psychiatrists. And she spoke to the legislature about 7 years later about this. And her mother found out she had been sitting under the Wi-Fi router when the top school district in Eugene, 4J, had upped the ante and received the Platinum Award from Apple for all its use of Wi-Fi and laptops, etc. Eugene was the first city in the country, and then Hawaii was second to do the first opt-in instead of opt-out of wireless smart meters. But it turned out that they completely capitulated on us and changed the direction. And finally, I want to say that when I talked to Dr. Martin Paul, because I spoke with him for about 11 hours on the phone while he was coming down to Eugene a couple times, and he met with our mayor. He told me that he was quite concerned about the fires, and this was about 6 or 7 years ago. And he said he's 100% confident that the exacerbation of the conflagrations of fires that we've seen that have wiped out Paradise, California, Leggett, Canada, towns in Washington, Blue River in Oregon, that it is exacerbated by the terpenes and terpenoids that are put off by trees and especially plants in response to what I call the microwave assaults. And that these are gaseous, volatile, and they help the fires get hotter and explode into these fire volcanoes. So just want to say we so appreciate Arthur. Thank you for letting me say something.
Thank you, Kathy. I see that Deborah Copal's online. I wanted to thank her again for the plants she sent for Arthur's first memorial, and we actually saved a cutting from one of them, and it's here. I don't know if you wanted to speak, Deborah. You could unmute yourself, but I was also. Go ahead. Is that Deborah?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Sorry, I apologize about the camera. I had a problem. Long story. It's funny, right before Arthur contacted me, not long before he died, his organization litigation. And I got a phone call from the lawyer saying, your friend hasn't contacted me. And that's sort of, I didn't know where he was. And then when I tried to contact him, and I realized what had happened. But I do want to say that right up, that's Arthur for you, right up until the end, he was concerned about advancing the ball on all of this. I think that Arthur, I admired the fact that he took a very strong line, even on the cell phones. It's been difficult. I've had many conversations with him where I was like, look, Arthur, people are not going to stop using cell phones. And he was like, no, we're taking this line. And I think that ultimately he was correct. I mean, at this point, phones are not, they're just not safe. There's a lack of understanding about it. And it's been very tough. I feel like I've spent a lot of time trying to say to people, no, you have to have phones off for meetings, and here's why. And even just getting basic courtesy at the grocery store to have people turn off the phone. So I appreciated that he did center this around the phones, whereas I had maybe come at this more from, looking more just at the cell towers. Arthur was always there if you wanted to chat. He would have a document if you needed a document. He had a certain amount of gallows humor about what's be a pretty horrific situation. So I appreciated his humor as well as sort of the intellectual aspects of talking about this problem with him over a period of years. I think at the end, I think one of the things that's important is to take away from Arthur's life is, a lot of us, and I know a lot of people in this memorial have worked so hard on this issue. Sometimes there isn't a lot to show for it. Sometimes it feels like Sisyphus and the rock, and we don't know, effectively, we could be spending another 10, 15 years of our lives on this and not advance the ball as much as we would like. But it's important, even under these conditions, to keep saying the truth. Fundamentally, I think that's what his core guiding value is for all of us. So we miss him. And I think, this he did the best he could with what has been, I think, a hostile legal system. He did everything possible to try to get the courts to understand. I think that's going to continue to be a very difficult issue for all of us going forward, but we still need to try. And I would just conclude by saying, obviously, I'm available if anyone wants to talk about any of this at any time. And I just want to thank everyone who was a friend to Arthur and who's, committed part of your life, your time to what I think is the most important issue. Obviously, I think we all do, facing our planet. Thank you, Bill, and everybody for organizing this.
There's another person that wants to share.
Okay, thank you, Deborah. And is there somebody else online who wants to share?
Yes, I'm sorry I came late. I knew Arthur in med school. I went to UCI and I was devastated because the first I'd heard was getting the email from EH Trust that he died a year ago. So I want to be respectful of him because he was actually in my anatomy group. And I was, there were only 10% of us that went straight through. He was 6 years older than me, a Cornell math major. And I was, a kid that went straight through. And I was also one of the few women, and I had a lot of sexism in a lot of the classmates, including in my group, another guy from Brooklyn. But I want to share because I was astonished that he worked on the very same areas that I had worked for 30 plus years. I'm a double grad of Stanford. I went undergrad there, but I went to UCI, and I just want to, he was a child of the Holocaust, his parents, and I'm Armenian, and so, we both have a mutual respect for those who stood for faith and suffered for that. So first of all, I'm deeply gratified that you're honoring him, and I'm very sorry that I lost touch with him. I graduated a quarter early from med school, but I do want to give you some history because he was very, very quiet, and he lived in Laguna Beach, and I had gotten sick, and I want you to know there's many things that I've been working on for years, so I want to be respectful of him. First of all, and I'm going to say this from the Old Testament, where I believe he has chosen people. I think he's Psalm 139, that God fearfully and wonderfully made him. And I knew he was brilliant. He was very quiet. But he came and visited me when I was mishandled. And I only saw the book 6 years ago by Judy Mikovits, Scientist's Obligation in an Age of Corruption, that showed, that many of us got a lot of these tainted vaccines. I had gotten 6 pneumonias throughout my training. And I got my first one when I was the daughter of a pediatrician and not, been sick that much. And I was mishandled. But he came and he visited and he was there. And even though, I was a female and I did have a brain, unlike other people who were very disrespectful of us in those days. He was utterly respectful of me, but his heart, that's what I really want to say, is his heart was really present and was very, very kind. And again, I can't believe how much he looks like, he did in school, except for the gray beard. So I want to share some things because I actually independently have worked for years on this. And I didn't know about EH Trust, and I didn't know about MA for Safe Tech, and I didn't know about Children's Health Affairs. I happened to take neurophysiology as a freshman at Stanford, and I took nutrition, the medical school course, and I also took things about biology and social responsibility. But I also took criminal law. And the problem has been that the people that are at the highest levels of academia have compromised the safety of everybody. And I'm very sad that it compromised Arthur's safety. So I'd like you to know that I've actually quoted his work and his research, and I called his local offices for his 2 senators, as well as his senators. And I've let them know. I've been calling for years about Martin Paul's brilliant, I think the best review was the July 2018 Wi-Fi effects on human cells in environmental research. And I photocopied a lot of articles, but I want you to know that the FCC are just 5 people that the mandate of an appointee in a federal agency is that they post information out and they let people have input. And so unfortunately, currently, children'shealthdefense.org, you need to look at that. And I think it would be helpful to honor Arthur because I don't want his work to be forgotten. Moses in the Psalm said, establish the work of our hands. And I've been praying that God would honor him. I have read part of the excerpts of his book that I've seen online. And I want to give you my sorrow because, there's a multi-systemic issue. Many of the people there that are not scientists or physicians. I saw that. I'm glad Erica Elliott. I only know because I'm, my spouse is a double E comp sci computer scientist. And from the beginning of me having computers and cell phones, I knew to put it further away. But we did take electricity a little bit as pre-meds. But I want to say, I want him to know that his fight's not in vain. I have called every senator in every, the Energy and Commerce Committee. I've called in Congress. I've called everybody. So the problem has been that the people are perishing for lack of knowledge. So when you mentioned the FCC earlier, in the United States, the mandate of appointees is that they actually follow the law. And by God's grace only, I met the member of the Federal Court of Appeals in Washington last year because he was selling his book at Stanford. I've kept up with some things in international human rights and law and all sorts of areas, but I could not do the work of a lawyer. So I thank the people that helped him with the law. The FCC actually is in violation of a remand from the Federal Court of Appeals. And Environmental Health Trust is the only way that I learned, as well as MA for Safe Tech, that this information was devastatingly not known to the public. The FCC has been allowed to have Department of Justice allowed the merger, which was defeated under the Bush Jr. administration. They had 18 months of public hearings. And you were not allowed to merge because the people had 18 months of hearings and they defeated